Good afternoon. Happy Father's Day to everybody. Thank you for tuning in to our conversation with women in law enforcement today. We have a great bunch of young ladies here with us today who are going to just basically tell us what's on their mind and the things they're thinking about in this very, very critical moment in history. And I'm excited about doing this program. And I know like people are very, very, very anxious, I should say right now. You know, there was a video circulating on social media about an incident that happened like 3 or 4 years ago. And people were saying this was now, it was now, and it wasn't now. In fact, unfortunately, one of the officers on there is not even active duty. So, people are just anxious to figure out or find out or get involved or point fingers or do whatever it is that they need to do to get us to a different place. First, I just want to start off to tell me about how are you feeling about all the things that are happening now as it relates to the police department. And I want you to talk about it from a perspective of being a police officer, but also being a woman of color in the police department, period. So, and while you're doing that, please tell people when you start off, please tell them who you are and where you're from and, all these other things. So we're going to start with Lieutenant Morris first.
Okay. Good afternoon. Happy Father's Day, Mayor.
Thank you.
And all you other fathers out there. All right, so I'm Lieutenant Morris. I currently work almost 23 years with the Newark Police Department, currently in the role as Executive Officer for the Office of Professional Standards. So I deal with all the complaints that come in, as everyone refers as internal affairs. So now we call it professional standards because our standards are professional. So we don't just do complaints, we make sure that the officers are doing what they're supposed to do before it become complaints. So we deal a lot with the public in that relation, and we try to help them out. Even when we get calls that's not related to complaints from officers, we help them out in our office. And so just what's going on today, I feel that, everybody wants to be heard and everybody needs a voice. And it's good that people are getting out there and they're speaking out. I particularly agree with the rioting part of it, but just to go out and protesting and being heard, that part I do agree with. And that's how we get change. And people have to speak up, but people have to do it educationally. And they have to talk to the right people. Damaging property and doing other stuff like that is not going to help us get ahead. And so that's just something that we just have to, to do to advance what we want. We need to be advanced as a people.
Yeah, thank you. Officer Wright Johnson.
It's Lieutenant Wright Johnson.
Lieutenant, I'm sorry.
I'm a 24-year veteran of the Newark Police Department. I'm currently assigned as the Executive Officer for the 1st Police Precinct in the city of Newark. How I feel about what's going on right now is basically like a struggle because this is a long time coming. The things that are happening to our Black men being shot by police and stuff like that, it has not been handled properly for several years and people are very angry. And I'm like battling with myself with the police department every day I go to work because I do agree with them out there protesting and rioting because when we did it educationally, nothing happened. So I'm just gonna leave that right there. That's how I feel about it.
Hey, I don't want to get your titles confused, so I'm gonna just say Miss, because I know you have rank. Some of you, Marissa Gonzalez, tell us your rank too.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Thank you for having us and happy Father's Day. I'm Sergeant Department. I also have 23 years on the job. My co-partner there, Lieutenant Mark, we came out of the same class. Currently overseas outside. I was born and raised in the city of Newark. I still live here, and how I feel. Everyone has the right to express their. People are hurt, and they're for guidance and for us as a city, as city hall or police department, fire department. They want everyone to gather together. One. So if they're out there protest and it's positive. I think we need to work. We have to come to.
Yep.
Can I
Thank you.
hear,
It's hard to hear everything.
hear you? Yeah.
Yeah, you're going in and out of there, so something's going on with your sound. Ellen McMillan, go ahead.
Good afternoon and happy Father's Day, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm newly retired Sergeant Ellen McMillan. I joined the police force more than 30 years ago.
Wow.
I've worked every district. I've worked every tour. I supervised the community affairs unit. They had the clergy affairs, citizens affairs, explorers, summer youth program. I was president of the Police Athletic League twice. Just prior to my retirement, September 1st, 2019, I was assigned to the Juvenile Services Unit, where we process juveniles. And we also offered diversion programs for them in lieu of arrest. It hasn't been an easy job, but it's been a rewarding one. I am a lifelong resident of the city. I have patrolled here. I was born here, and I work to the best of my ability for the citizens of the city. I would also like to add that 30 years ago when I started, there were only 11 women on the police department. Myself and Lieutenant Amos made 12 and 13. There are now 245 women on the police department. 1 captain, 11 lieutenants, and 33 sergeants.
That's right.
So we have made some progress. In reference to what's going on now, my life has come full circle because I lived through the riots as a child and I slept on the floor. We lived at 95 Preshine Avenue in Newark. So to see everything around you burn down as a child is traumatic. I cringed when I saw all the stuff that's going on around the country. Like Lieutenant Aloma said, unfortunately, sometimes you don't get attention until somebody burns something down, unfortunately. People are mad, they're angry, they're tired, on top of the coronavirus, which didn't help. It's my belief that we have to, as the police department, continue to foster relationships with the community through our clergy unit, through our PAL, through our explorers. We got to partner with the community. We have to keep open communication with the community. You can't wait for something to happen and then react. You have to keep it going. And that's my opinion in reference to what's going on now.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Karama,
Good afternoon, Mayor. Thank you for this invite to this conversation with women in law enforcement. I'd like to say happy Father's Day to you and to all the viewers who are watching. Happy Father's Day to you. I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the women on the panel. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
My name is Karama Thomas. I'm a police detective in the city of Newark. I started my career in policing in 1996. I served in several capacities within the public safety division. Currently, I'm serving in executive protection unit, Throughout my career, I served in communications division, special victims division, taxi commission, prisoner processing division, 5th precinct, 3rd precinct, and 2nd precinct as a school resource officer. Prior to coming to the police department, I obtained a dual bachelor's degree in sociology and criminal justice. My original plan was to enter a career in social services, but my brother, who is also a law enforcement officer, convinced me to become a police officer. Thank you, Tybee. The world of law enforcement has been shattered because we're learning that we're not always right. We have to strike a balance when we're talking about police officers who have abused their authority. And in some cases, we need to root them out by taking action and by taking whatever kind of necessary action and filing of charges, criminal charges, or what have you. For instance, in the George Floyd case. But we also need to make sure that we're not demonizing all police officers, because this could spread throughout the country. We have a lot of issues in policing that need to be addressed, but we have to strike that balance to make sure we're not giving people the impression that all police are bad, because it's simply not the case. And we need to also address the problems, and I would venture to say that police agencies know who the problem police officers are in the ranks, and that they have no business being police officers. Listen, if you're doing your job the way you ought to be doing it, then you don't have a problem.
Right.
But if you're one of those police officers who go too far, then you do have a problem. And you need to correct that behavior now or suffer the consequences. During this conversation, you may hear me vacillating back and forth, trying to navigate the dichotomy of being Black and blue. But before I exit, I would like to acknowledge the women who went before us, the trailblazers, because back in the 40s, women on the Newark Police Department were known as police women. It wasn't until 1981 till 9 women, and I'd like to just acknowledge them by name: Gigi Fouché, Noreen Britt, Marsha Jones, May Smith, Benita Johnson, Joanne Polk, Marion Simmons, and Barbara George. Also, they are all Black women, and one Cuban woman by the name of Evelyn Catalano. I pray I'm saying her name correctly.
That's right.
I acknowledge them because that's so vitally important.
Excellent. Before I go on to you, Jacqueline, Molina, I want y'all to share. Please let everybody know we're doing this live. You cannot miss this conversation. This already started off explosive, so you have to tell people that we on here, rocking and rolling with the ladies in law enforcement here. Please, Jacqueline, Molina, go ahead.
Hi, Mayor, how are you? Salute to everybody there, my lieutenants and my sergeants and retirees. I am so happy to be selected for this, be one of the first ones to be selected as part of the Newark Police Division, of course, Department of Public Safety. My name is Detective Jacqueline Molina. I've been on the job, which I love so dear, for over 21 years. I've worked just about everywhere. I've worked as plainclothes, I worked in patrol, I've worked in communications. I was a call taker and a dispatcher. I've worked throughout the police department assignments, being an assignment clerk, a principal clerk. Trust me and believe, the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th precincts I've worked. I've met lots of good people out there. I've also met a lot of not so good people out there. But besides that, I appreciate the selection. Thank you very much. Happy Father's Day to everyone, especially the mothers that are fathers as well. I also want to thank the director, Anthony Ambrose, and Chief Darnell Henry, and also you, Mayor. I know it's been a difficult time for all of you, especially us within the police department and throughout. My views on the riots, I wish they were peaceful. I wish they weren't burning. I know there's other people that are coming from different states and countries that are doing the riots and that are burning. I applaud explicitly the people that actually live and reside in Newark that stood in front of the 1st precinct with the officers that were there, fighting and screaming and telling them and advising them and demanding that they will not burn anything in Newark. So I applaud them. But as far as the riots, I just wished it wasn't like it is now. When you fight, I believe you should fight verbally. You should have picket signs. But as far as burning something and destroying, I don't think that's, it took a long time to Newark for it to be as it is. Since the riots back then, and Newark is this, I was born and raised here. born and raised, second in Mount Prospect, born at St. Michael's Hospital, lived at Chalk Street, went to Hawkins Street School, went to Eastside High School, Hawkins Street Annex when I was young. So I've lived in Newark, not all my life, because I also lived in Alabama. I was living down south for a couple of years, but I just wish the rights were a little different. Sometimes a lot of talking will change things. I understand that people are tired, upset, and a lot of other words I can use, adjectives, but I just wish it was a little different than what it is now. So I appreciate this.
Thank you. And we get a chance to talk about it. You know, I'm gonna get harder and harder as we go. So just let this easing you guys into it. It's easing you in. You know, I was talking to a couple of the fellas on the police department the other day, and I said, you know, I've been trying to think, has there been any situation where women police officers have in fact shot someone like or killed someone like we've seen publicly in the last decades or so. I can't definitively say if that's true or not. You know, I don't know if there's a difference between how women look at the job and how men look at the job. I do know, and even in the comments that people make, some of them say women officers try to be overly assertive out there. They get into so forth and so on. But I've never ever seen in my lifetime, I'm not gonna be wrong, female officers who have used deadly force like that. I'm sure it is, but I haven't seen it. So anybody want to jump in there? You know, maybe I'm wrong. Want to talk about that aspect of it for me?
I'll go.
Right now.
Okay. You guys are different from us. You're raised different. You're supposed to be masculine. Women, we know how it is to defuse a situation. By nature, we know how to defuse. Men, on the other hand, have to be taught to do that. That's where the training comes in. Give you a prime example. I go to the domestic with my partner. I'm talking to the male, he's talking to the female. This happened years ago, by the way. I don't know what the female said to my partner. My partner jumps in front of the male, gets in between us. So my partner and I become a domestic at a domestic. So now I got to calm down my partner and now the guy. It's the guys are built differently and they have to be trained how to diffuse situations. They have to be trained how to de-escalate whatever the situation is. They want immediate gratification. They want to go in there, oh, let's get it done. Whereas a woman, we're going to take our time. We're going to try to figure out what's happening, and we try to resolve it. A man just wants to go in and handle it. That's the difference. And there lies the problem. And I would also say that community policing starts when you get out of the car.
Right.
Not sitting in the class.
Right.
The minute you get out of the car, you should have decided some kind of way how you're going to handle it. Now, there are situations where you got to get down. I understand that. But for the most part, when you get out of the car is when your community policing starts. Your approach is when your community policing starts. Because if you go in all the way up there, there's nothing else but to come down. So you have to learn how to talk to people. But guys are different because they're built different and they have to be trained, as far as my opinion, how to de-escalate various situations. And that's why we have some of the problems that we have.
I think with just women compared to men, that women are just more nurturers. So when we go through a job, we want to handle the job. We don't just want to be finished with the job. So I know personally for myself, when I was a supervisor out in the street as a sergeant, I would go to every job. And the reason why I would go to every job, because I wanted to make sure that the jobs were handled. You know, and I think that's more of a woman thing, especially for me as a mother of 5 boys, you know, especially Black men, that when I go to these jobs, even if I saw the jobs dealt with men for boys that were the age of my sons, I would take that extra time. As a mother, I think that's just how we are. And I would talk to them. And I would make sure that they understood what was going on and they felt better about themselves once I was done. Men, they're not made that way. They just want to handle the situation. And they just want to be right a lot of the times. And we want to go in there and just want to solve the problem.
Right, exactly.
I would have to say, you know, I did 12 years in patrol in the city of Newark. I worked in the South District and I worked in the West District. So basically I came on very young and Newark Police Department kind of raised me. I'm from New York, Harlem, New York. So it was different for me coming into Newark in 1992. So when I go to different scenes, me being from, you know, the hood, as they say, I learned different techniques on how you have to go down to someone's level to speak to them. When I go to scenes and I see guys hanging out or we get a drug call, I get out the car. Hey, how you guys doing? What's going on? Before I say why I'm there, I want to say, hey, what you guys doing today? I want to talk to them and find out, why are you here? I say, hey, what happened was I'm here for whatever complaint I'm here for. And then I'm on their level. They talk to me, hey, clear it up. And, you know, that's it. I never really had a hard time out there. You know, I had a couple of instances where I did have to struggle with people. You know, my partner was very aggressive. We worked together for years. Some of you guys know who he is. And I worked Freela Heisen Avenue. I've been everywhere, but I really never had an issue where I had to basically, where I thought I was gonna, you know, shoot somebody. I never really came to that issue, and thank God for that.
Yes.
I think that women are better at communicating effectively, and we're more skilled at excuse me, guys, forgive me, but we are better processors, which prevent us from escalating the situation as opposed to being a situation that may cause for a guardian as opposed to a warrior. And so men, they want to shut a situation down where women may be more skilled at de-escalating the situation so that it does not escalate to a situation where it turns violent or deadly, or those encounters become excessive force. So I think we have a tendency to be more skilled at processing the situation and try to de-escalate before the situation turns deadly.
You know, I do want to say, you guys keep saying built differently. It just makes sense in my mind that we just learn what we learn as young people in this community, in this society in America. We learn differently. We learn misogyny. We learn, you know, all these other kind of things. We learned it, and it has to be unlearned. So it's not that we built this way. We just learn differently. You know, we taught different things. You know, these roles in society are already, you know, assigned to people before you even get on the planet. So, and people teach you that as soon as you get up. And, you know, it's an issue of power. You know, men, you know, it becomes a power struggle more than anything. But I want to ask you about George Floyd. Why do you think he's dead? And do you think it could have been stopped?
Yeah. I looked at the video and it saddened me of what was happening because it could have been stopped. The officers that were there, I believe they were scared of the other officer with his hands in his pocket, first of all. I mean, you see the man is not breathing. You have him under control. So why would 3 people be on top of him? I just don't understand that. The logic of that, it doesn't make any sense to me. This guy basically had his hands in his pocket, put his feet across him just to make sure he could get more strength, you know, so the guy couldn't breathe. So it could have been stopped. I mean, basically that is very sad that nobody did nothing. None of them cops did anything. The people on the street wanted to react. It was just terrible. And it's a shame. It's a shame. And me as a cop, when I'm out there in the 1st precinct, I'm running the precinct, I would not want any of my officers to do that. And if I see that, I'm going to react. I'm going to react. I'm not going to let them get away with that. No way I would let anybody get away with abusing any person, no matter what color they are. It doesn't make a difference. That's a human. That's all I have to say.
Yep.
That's
good.
correct. The first thing I think about when I saw the video was that's definitely something we were not trained to do. The moment a suspect is handcuffed, you're going to want to render aid, sit him down properly to continue the process of what's going on. But for that officer to put his knee on his neck was completely uncalled for. Definitely something that we don't see here, would not want to see here. And I do hope that if something happens similar to that in our city, that other officers would come to aid. No training in the world tells you to do that. No training in the world. It was sad, it was scary, and obviously you cannot lump all officers into that scenario, because we do have officers that work with the city, work with the community, and again, if you work as one, that should not happen in our city.
I can definitely guarantee you, if that was to happen in Newark, our public safety director, he doesn't accept anything less than what they're supposed to do. That would have been immediate suspension, in an attempt to fire, which because of our unions, that's just something we can't do immediately. So people don't understand when they say to fire them. So that would be definitely immediate suspension. We respond quickly to instance, just like the video that you spoke of that was from 3 years ago that someone was, had put back out. As soon as he found out, that was something he sent to our office immediately to look into, and we figured out that it was an old video. So that's something we handle in this city immediately. We don't deal with that. There would be no reason to protest and riot and do all the things that they had to do to get heard there, because that's something we handle and we frown upon in this city.
Well, go ahead, Karama.
When I saw the video, I was completely grieved in my spirit. I thought it was totally unacceptable. And I find that each officer that was working with him was just as culpable of the actions of Chauvin, because there's no way that you could, the people were screaming, okay? The partner that was standing directly next to him, all he had to do was take a look and say, listen, even if he had put his hand up, and even if he didn't want to touch him, call your immediate supervisor, right? Because from what I understand, there were some of the officers had only started working a couple of days. Call your immediate supervisor. But the bottom line, when I view this video, I couldn't help but think about all the trauma that Black people have suffered in terms of police brutality. So I wasn't surprised that a firestorm had erupted across the nation, okay, from Paris to Australia and all across the country. Protest is not new to Black people because of police brutality and racial inequality. So basically, the situation with George Floyd was the trigger, right? But what we're really, and I say we, remember earlier I said I would probably vacillate back and forth between Black and blue, because I have to acknowledge the fact that Black people have been dealing with this for over 400 years, right? So I hear people complaining about the protests, right? But no one is talking about 1919, when mobs incited a wave of anti-Black violence against dozens of cities. 1921, in Oklahoma, whites looted and destroyed Tulsa's Greenwood district, known for its affluent Black community. This is just as early as the 1900s. In 1922, you could obtain a nigger hunting license, which provided the license holder the legal right to hunt and kill Black people. So when you see these things happen over and over and over and over repeatedly, folks are not trying to understand the anger, the frustration that Black people are feeling with the fact that this keeps happening. We had training, right? But no changes. We put certain things in place, but there are no changes, right? And then we have what's called qualified immunity, which was invoked in 1967. In 1967, qualified immunity was put in place. Qualified immunity was put in place. And I just want to be clear on the data, the information, because I want to make sure I quote it correctly, just in case we have our fact checkers out here. Qualified immunity was invoked in 1967. It was by way of a Supreme Court case, Pearson versus Burrell. This case was put in place to shield white police officers from a lawsuit they faced for enforcing segregation. Today, it continues to protect those officers who engage in horrific acts of abuse towards people of color. So what I'm saying, laws have to change, right? Now, police immunity should basically be for police officers who create egregious acts, right? Because there are incidents where police officers should have an act of, I think, acting in good faith, right? Where they may need qualified immunity. But if you commit an egregious act on a person, knowingly, purposely, then qualified immunity should not apply to you. So I believe qualified immunity should be rewritten. Along with that, the Constitution is outdated because the Constitution that was put in place is not for 21st century policing. So that needs to be revamped as well. But I'm just gonna stop right there because I don't want to go into too deep.
Go ahead.
You went deep enough.
Yeah, right.
You went way back, girl, way back.
You went deep enough. Yeah, that's exactly right. Anybody else want to jump on that before I have another question? Anybody else can jump on that if you want.
I just want to add that prior to them putting his foot on his neck, that he paraded him across the street. So he was basically putting on a show that he's done before, sort of like this in modern day lynching. He paraded him across the street. It's just crazy to me. It's just crazy. I don't even know what.
Here's a crazier question. Why do you think he thought he could do that and get away with it?
Because he's done it before.
Yeah.
Well,
And nothing happened. He's done it
And
before.
because it's happening every time they do something like that, they get
Right. With no consequences to not doing it. Nothing happened before.
But don't everybody have internal affairs? What does internal affairs do when these things happen?
Oh, maybe
North has had some cases though, that's for sure. So what happens in internal affairs? You're on mute.
Yeah.
There you go.
No, we try to stay on top of it. If they bring it to our attention, we follow through. We get the county involved if it's to that level, and the county, they stay on it and they make sure. So that's something we frown upon. We frown upon. Trust me, I've been in these meetings where they want to fire these guys immediately, but it's just something that we can't do at that point. That there has to be an investigation, it has to be due process. So that we don't enjoy allowing people like to do things like that. We try to stay on it. We investigate. So we do as much as we possibly can with what we have.
Okay.
I believe I totally respect due process, and due process is necessary. But I know that here we are, 99 years later, from what happened in Tulsa, and even further than what happened in Tulsa, experiencing the same thing over and over again. It's not going to change, right? I'm not talking about everybody. I'm only talking about those police officers who commit these egregious acts. It's not going to change until we put certain laws in place, certain protections, right? Because right now, the protections that are in place is pretty much ironclad, and that's why no one has actually been convicted. If we're gonna have real talk, that's why no one has been convicted. Even your department, your agency can have certain things in place, right? But if the laws are not geared towards making sure that the citizen is protected from these acts, I have a case right here that I want to bring up.
Can I just
In reference to the qualified immunity.
Can I chime in real quick? I just want to say, we talking about charges and being brought when Black officers do something, and if that happened, like basically Rayshard Brooks, they acted quickly, but in Atlanta they acted more quickly. It was the next day they got fired. So it seems like when there's a shooting involving a black police officer compared to the white officers, the action is more quicker when it's a Black officer. And also when it comes to basically punishment with internal affairs, severity is given more severity to the Black officer than the white officer.
Well, let me,
So basically you come out this bad treatment.
we charge them, but they go to a trial board and they're the ones who give them, they sentence them particularly. We don't do that part. We do the investigation, we put it to the trial board, and then the trial board is responsible for dealing with the charges after that.
Who sits on the trial board?
I did.
The trial board is selected. I believe they change up. That comes out of a separate unit. So we don't deal with the trial board in our office particularly as a separate unit. And they usually take like a few of the captains, deputy chiefs, you know, the lawyer and stuff like that. So internal affairs do not sit on the trial board. So we're not the judge and the executioner, you know.
But see, I don't want to just narrow this down to Newark because
we don't have the use of force like a lot of these states do. We don't have a lot of the excessive force complaints like a lot of these other municipalities have. Last year, we only had 21 use of excessive force complaints. And that's down from 10 years ago. We're doing a lot better than we had. Right. Because they know, like I said, the public safety director that's in place now, he doesn't accept a lot of this stuff.
But also the consent decree and all the other kinds of things that are part of it.
Well, also we do have the federal monitors.
Right. Eileen, I want you to say so. Ellen, you've been trying to talk. Go ahead. I want you.
I don't let Karama go. I lost my train of thought. She can go ahead.
It's gonna be real quick. I just wanted to bring to the attention a case from 2004, and this is in reference to qualified immunity. Her name was Molina Brooks, a Black woman who was 7 months pregnant, was driving her 11-year-old son to school in Seattle when she was pulled over for speeding. When she refused to sign the speeding ticket, fearing that doing so would be an admission of guilt, the officers demanded that she get out of her car. After she refused, they tasered her 3 times. They dragged her across the street and placed her in handcuffs. Brooks sued the officers for excessive force, but her case was dismissed. The judges admitted that the officers had used excessive force, but citing qualified immunity, which concluded the officers would not have known their actions amounted to a constitutional violation. This is just one of the countless examples.
That's terrible. So when I was talking to the guys, you know, I went back and forth. Well, it was a couple of ladies on there, they, you know, and they held their own. Let me just say that. They said they talked about snitching, right? And I said, how is that a thing in the police department? Snitching, when we discourage that on the streets. How is that a thing in the police department? So those officers in Minneapolis, maybe they thought if they interacted, if they said something, they would be looked at as snitches, as, you know, against what they were supposed to be doing in their life would have been in jeopardy. Do you think that people's lives can get in jeopardy if they in fact take the right position?
When it comes to right and wrong within the Newark Police Department, I don't know who brought up the snitching, but if you're wrong, and I'm going to speak up about it. So I have never been in an instant where I felt like I wasn't going to say something about anything. So I'm trying to figure out who said that, because it's.
Watch the video.
I'm not doing all that. I'm not doing. See, I don't. What the other panel you had, I don't know. I don't really be on the internet that much, Facebook. But I would have to say, no, I'm not doing it. You're wrong.
Yep, absolutely.
But see, let's be honest for a minute, ladies. We are the blue crew, right? And so there is an unspoken code, but naturally, because we're responsible for covering and protecting us out on the streets, right? When no one else is there, we know that if something happens, the cavalry is coming. So what happens is when situations arrive and you may have to deal with a situation or a case that's tough, you are expected not to betray what is considered betraying the badge, right? And so if you speak out against something that's unpopular, oh, you best to believe you're gonna get some dirty looks and a few nasty emails. Oh yeah, absolutely.
Can I just chime in?
Yes.
I had a situation where, fortunately or unfortunately, when you look at it, I had an officer, he had to be arrested. But I became the villain. It was crazy. It was either him or me, and it was him, not me. You were wrong, you were wrong. And, you know, he was arrested. And I had a whole bunch of people mad at me for a very long time. That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, I'm used to it.
Wow.
So we
I didn't work internal affairs.
right, somebody don't either like us. Either it's gonna be the citizen that don't like us if we don't charge the cops, and the cops mad at us when we charge the cops. So
Yeah.
I mean, someone's mad at us every day.
Yeah.
So
Hey, I'm good.
used to it. And when I came to professional standards, I came in with and someone told me my first day, he said, listen, don't feel bad about charging cops because they charge themselves. So basically, if they do something that's wrong, it's on them because they're the one who do it. So I don't feel bad when I charge people. And I hate to say it, I really don't with officers because they do stuff that's ridiculous. That's stuff they knew they shouldn't do. And I don't hold back. I mean, I've charged people that's come out of my same class with me that I've worked with for years because they were wrong. So in our office, we don't cover up for cops. We don't do it. I know when I'm dealing with something, I definitely don't do it because I respect my job, you know, and I believe that when you're wrong, like you said, you're wrong. And so I believe I'm where I'm supposed to be because of that. Because I don't feel sympathy when I charge cops. I really don't. And I love my officers. And I love all the officers that's doing what they're supposed to do.
I guess I'm a villain sometimes too. That's why I would have to say.
Well, you know I love you.
What it is.
I talk to Lieutenant Wright a lot because she don't play in her precinct. And so, I mean, and she knows that. And every day we're on the phone because she's making sure our officers aren't doing shit that, oops, sorry.
It's all good.
I get a little passionate sometimes.
Yeah, if you play the villain, I guess you know how everything feels.
Right.
I'm myself as a villain. I'm just trying to be fair. And fair is wrong.
It is fair because like I say, like I went to school in Newark. I was raised in Newark. I went to college in Newark. I stayed home. You know what I'm saying? So I love my city. And we have a lot of officers that don't appreciate the people that's in the city. So, I mean, sometimes they're disrespectful to the people for no reason. And we frown upon that. I definitely frown upon that. And we charge a lot of people for demeanor. So for the smallest thing, we'll charge them for it because it's a certain way that you talk to people.
Right.
And we allow them to get away with the little things, then they think it's okay to do the bigger things.
True.
100%. 100%. 100%. So, I have a question that I want everybody to tell me yes or no, and I'll give you a little bit of time to elaborate, not much. Defunding the police department. What do you think about? Yes, no, why not, maybe? What do you think? Top to bottom, everybody has to respond to this one. Go ahead.
Can I go first?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Jack.
Defunding. People need to read to actually understand what defunding is because they think to abolish the police department. That's got nothing to do with that. That's providing services to where the services need to be. Like, let's say police officers, when they're called on an EDP, which is a sick and injured, we have to go to a lot, well, not me per se, but all the officers have to go to the assignments. I think that should be EMTs. If EMTs need us, then call us, not that we have to go there first and then they come. There's a lot of things that could be with, like sending it to somebody else. Like, let's say domestic violence. We have Shawnee Baraka, which you know, Mayor. Domestic violence. We send people there when there's domestic violence and they come to the precinct. We give them pamphlets. We tell them where to go at 300 Clinton. So there's services out there already in place, but we need more services out there so police officers can do their policing or be community police officers. So if anybody wants to jump in.
Next, everybody say something.
Yes. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm actually for defunding, and here's why. And I'm looking at it from the perspective all across the country. We have been trying to figure out ways to revamp the police departments so that we could stop the white supremacy, the racism, the police brutality, what have you. We're looking for ways to stop these things. But more importantly, we're also focused on the fact that we're trying to deal with the social ills that take place in the urban communities. So the hot topic of defunding came up was because they have come to the realization based on the numbers, right? And even our own police director, Burrell, said that 25% of cases involving mental illness, 25% of our cases is involving mental illness. So why not use some funds to go towards hiring persons who have a skill set to handle those things? Now, while we all know that mentals can be very violent, we're not talking about sending folks in harm's way, but we're talking about reallocating funds so that the community could, as far as housing, homelessness, because for example, with homelessness, right? I recall when being on patrol, I didn't know who to call, right? So I had to call my mom, who was in social services, because I didn't want to see a family out on the street, because we don't really have any information as to where to send these people or where they should go, right? So after that, my mom gave me a notebook full of resources. So if I came across someone who was dealing with homelessness or an emergency situation where they were being evicted, I can direct them to these various places in or outside of the city. So defunding to me would be appropriate in terms of helping out the community with the social ills.
Well, instead of defunding or that terminology, how about redirecting funds?
That's what it means. Yeah.
It's the same thing.
You know, community service, social services, recruiting more women for the police department, training. The emphasis now is training officers. If we take that certain percentage of money instead of defunding the police department, let's make it to use. Let's make it to work for us. We need the community just as much as they need us. Since grammar school, we've been trained for any emergency, you dial 911. The police are coming. They're here to help you. Doesn't look like that in the last couple of weeks, but we're still here. North is here. We're not going anywhere. We still have time on this job. And I think if we work together, we bring the community together, we bridge everyone together, we can make this happen. We got this with women. Women are nurturers, we're parents. When we're in the field, it's the citizen becomes an extension of your own family. You want these people to be happy when you leave them. You want them to say, oh, great, they came here, did what they had to do, and now I'm all right. Versus, why the hell did I call them? I called, they came, and I got the service that I need. So training, recruitment, social services, and working hand in hand. The community walks that we do, we did them a long time ago when I was promoted. We did the community focus divisions. We were embedded into the community all over the city. And pretty much everyone loved it. Also exercise for us.
So it's a win-win.
All right.
Oh my
We got Lieutenant Morris and Lieutenant Johnson.
Hi, I agree with defunding the police, you know, allocating money to different resources to help the community, to help rebuild, to help them understand police a little more, help us understand, you know, mental health issues, homeless issues, also issues with youth that are left without parents and they have nowhere to go. There's a lot of things like that I'm seeing. Homeless youth in the city. People don't talk about it a lot, but recently we had arrested a homeless youth. He was kicked out of his house and he was busy basically carjacking, stealing from autos, stealing autos. And I spoke to him for a good hour, and you know, he was just looking for some outlet. He needs some help. He don't have nowhere to be, can't go to school. His mother is on drugs and stuff like that. So if we could do that to help somebody, I'm all for it.
Well, I don't believe in defunding the police. I think we should use the money wiser. I think just in better programs with the officers. Because like you say, a lot of the mental illness jobs that we go to, it do turn violent. So our officers need to be able to understand that. Where you had Karama Thomas speak, you know, reaching out to your mother, the officers should have all of that there. They should be more understanding and they should know what to look out for and stuff of that nature. So I think we should use more of the police funds in social issues and stuff like that. Yes. So we definitely need to do more with the community, with the police, you know, instead of taking the money out of the budget, just use it wiser.
So you think police officers should be social workers and?
No, I'm not saying
They already are.
We are social workers.
How to handle people that they're dealing with.
Okay.
And we should have social workers, and we do, because I did look at the last one that you had, and money do come out for social workers, and you mentioned that. So that's something we should do. So we have the Shani Baraka, you know, that's over there, and that's, I believe, out our budget, I'm not sure. But that's something like that. Like, that's something that we should do. And we also have officers there, and we also have counselors there. So that's something that I think is positive for our community.
Absolutely.
I got like three more questions. You want to jump in, Alan? Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to just expand on, defunding seems such a negative thing to say. I think we need to expand on some of the current programs that we already have through our community affairs unit, some of our other units, some things to keep kids off the streets, just to work better with the community. And in reference to programs, there are a lot of programs and stuff in the city that officers don't know about. And real briefly, when I first came on the job, I used to carry with me a folder that had different organizations and stuff, referral stuff, because I found people needed references. So I think a lot of times the officers don't have with them, or don't have knowledge of some of the very existing programs that we already have. So I'm not really into defunding, but I am into trying to expand on some of the programs that currently exist.
Well, Sergeant Molina said people confuse defund with abolish.
Right.
You hear the word abolish. I mean, you guys, if you live in our community, you know our grandmothers and grandfathers and elders are not going to agree with abolishing the police. Because
right.
When there's shots fired, you can't send a social worker to shots fired.
So, yeah.
You can't send a social worker to armed robbery in progress, right? So those things you need police officers for. But I think some of the stuff that people are talking about, like some of the services that are not being funded at a level that they should be, probably should be funded at that level so we can expand those services, as opposed to using a lot of the money just to respond to incidents. Why don't we use some money to reduce the number of incidents that police have to, in fact, respond to? That's just my 2 cents.
Yep.
The other thing I want to ask you about is the consent decree, right? Many of you have been in this department for over 20 years. So do you think this is a better department now? And do you think that the consent decree was necessary?
I think it's definitely a better department. We work pretty closely with the consent decree unit. And I mean, and we don't always agree with them. So we go back and forth, and it's nice to have another sounding board with another thought and opinions that could kind of come in and explain to us, listen, there's certain things that we can't do or you shouldn't do. And because the police department has been so used to doing what they wanted to do. So now you have another entity that comes in and say, hold up, you can't do that. And so they have to listen. So it made them a better people, I think, a department in general.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I absolutely believe 101% that the consent decree has helped, because prior to that, it was a free fall. People did what they want, got away with what they wanted to get away with. It was crazy. So we definitely needed the consent decree, and it's absolutely a different department now, for sure.
I'm not opposed to the consent decree because basically the consent decree helps us to be more professional. And also we're receiving a lot more training. So I'm all for it. I'm not opposed 100%.
I'm definitely all for the consent decree. I used to work with them and under them as a community service officer. So I'm for them. And I'm glad they're here.
That's correct. The consent decree has made us a better department. Again, it's all about working with the people, being one with the people. It helps us look at our rules and regulations. And yes, back in the days, it was for all. But now, you know, everything is checks and balances, and we're held accountable for what we do. Good afternoon, Senator Morris.
Consent decree, has it changed the department? Yes, it changed it because now is, I was always submitting to have training. I was never given training on things I want. So now I'm getting that opportunity because training was given to, you know, it's who you know. So
Exactly.
I would say it helped in that tone. Do we have a different department? We have a different department, yes. But like, I mean, it's not that much different. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm happy, you know, it's all right. I mean, it's moving in the right direction. Moving in the right direction. I'm gonna leave it like that, yeah.
But I see the light. I see the light at the end of the tunnel. So
What are some things in your mind that are different? Because people saying it's different. What is different?
The accountability,
Yeah.
the transparency, the training.
Definitely the training and the transparency.
What about promotions and people moving in power and different things like that?
Promotions, I would have to say, and you know, I guess is moving up that our people are getting promoted, but our promotional system, I still don't agree with because you know, because they pick and choose who they want to promote at certain times to make them acting, and
Right.
that's somebody more seniority against me, which I do not agree with, and you know, so I'm still fighting with that. I just don't agree with that. If I did better than somebody on the promotional test, I should be offered an opportunity before them. They shouldn't pick from the litter to see who they want first.
True.
What about the CCRB, lady? Civilian Complaint Review Board. Yes or no?
Yes.
yes, and I don't know why people are afraid of them. Yes, I'm all for that too.
Yeah.
I would say yes, as long as they be trained on what they need to do and keep it fair.
Impartial.
Yeah. I don't see why I'm scared of them.
People there that
Definitely trained.
One at a time, one at a time. Go ahead.
Good.
Can I jump in?
people that's knowledgeable and they know what they're doing. I mean, it should be a variety of people with a lot of different thought patterns, but it shouldn't be one so extreme to the left or too extreme to the right, where some people that just don't like police officers. So everything they do is wrong. And there's some that love police officers, everything they do is right. But long as they're, they're in the middle and they're kind of, fair.
The CCRB is necessary, and here's why. The contract between the police and the community has been broken, right? And I'm not talking about not necessarily Newark police, but across the country. The contract has been broken. The client is not happy. The client meaning the community is not happy. right? So the client who pay our salary is complaining whether or not we agree with what they're saying. We took an oath to serve and protect the community. So if the people we're servicing is screaming they're not happy, then we need to have a seat, sit down, and they're saying, hey, we want more involvement. We want to know exactly what's happening. When there's a deadly shooting or whatever, we want to have more involvement. I think they should. And they're not happy with across the country with all of the different things that just happened. Atlanta, Minneapolis. They've been on for the last 4 years, over and over, the same things repeatedly. And these monies are coming out of the taxpayers' dollars, right? And so the taxpayers who the community is not happy with what they're receiving. So the idea of a civilian complaint review board, they felt like they would have more hands on the community in which their tax dollars is paying for. But I do have a stipulation in terms of the CCRB, because I would not like to see if in fact that they are allowed to be established, that they have access to police officers, residents, social security number, date of birth, any kind of private information. Absolutely not.
Okay. Anybody else? CCRB?
I would just like to add that you would definitely have a better relationship with the community if you had the citizen complaint review board. I think that the citizens of the city would look on that as a very positive thing to do. I think that that would be a good thing to have.
Definitely.
The police,
The goal is to restore the public's trust.
Yeah.
This is interesting. If we took a survey, you ladies, I think all of you said that you wanted a civilian, you agree with the CCRB. The other panel, I think 90% of them said no. But
What are they afraid of?
if you're looking at
Don't
police,
be afraid. If you don't do anything,
yeah.
Well, you don't have anything to hide. I just think it should be an issue.
Mhm.
But I don't know what their issues are, right? Because I listened to the panel. I'm not exactly sure why the rejection came about. But if you don't have anything to hide and you're doing the right thing, and as long as you're not giving out my social security number,
Right.
I think the CCRB is going to impose the punishment.
right.
as long as it's progressive discipline.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of confusion about what it is. People put out false information on purpose, like everything. CCRBs can't give punishment; they only can recommend punishment, and just like internal affairs, they only can recommend punishment. But it asks for the director, if in clear error, to be able to explain why they did not take the CCRB's advice. They have to be able to explain that. And that's the difference. And I think that that creates, people will get a little nervous about that. But the CCRB cannot do that, and the CCRB cannot investigate criminal complaints. The Internal Affairs can't even do that. It has to go right to the prosecutor's office. Criminal complaint. Once there's a criminal complaint, the investigation internally stops until the prosecutor is finished with it. And people don't understand that, but that's correct. And the CCRB has to be governed by the same thing, unless the Attorney General changes that. But other than that, once there's a shooting, the Internal Affairs is off of it. Essex County prosecutor has to pick it up from that point on, because CCRB deals with internal discipline, right? And so does Internal Affairs. But there's a lot of confusion about those things, because ultimately the case, like the trial board, if the trial board says this cop should stay on the force, the CCRB could say, we don't agree with that. We think he should be fired immediately. And then there's the discussion between why those outcomes are different, Why the trial board is saying this guy could be on the police department, and the CCRB of citizens saying, no, he's got to go. That's what criminality is governed by the prosecutor, a trial, a jury, and a judge. That's nothing to do with CCRB or internal affairs. And you guys, I mean, you know that. And when people put that wrong information out there purposefully, you know, it is designed to get you to doubt these things and be against stuff that you probably shouldn't be against. The whole question of same with defunding versus abolition, right? Obviously, if the community is less dangerous, if there's less violent crime, if there's less carjackings, less murders, less armed robberies, less domestic violence, the need for large numbers of police would shrink. I asked my mother about abolition of police department. She said, I wish a cop was there when my daughter was being killed. So that just gets to the root of it, right? That gets to the root of it. And so we need to create programs so people are not feeling like they should kill somebody in a domestic violence situation, right? Because the police respond to crime. And so we need programs that prevent crime from happening, right? And that's I think that's what it is. And if we had a real discussion with police and community about that, I think we can come to some happy place where everybody agrees what in fact should happen to us in our community. Are there any last things you ladies want to say? Get off your chest, talk about real quick that we need to deal with. But you ladies were awesome, and more awesome. I just want to tell y'all that. But any last things you want to say that you think we need to hear, please?
Yeah, I just like to say that.
And get your phone, your sound is not correct. So your sound is a little off there, Karama.
I would just like to say that we should do this more often. I like stuff like this, like pick different people. Yeah, that's good. That's moving forward, different, reform for the department. Yeah.
Right.
Can you hear me okay now?
There you go. You're good.
I just basically like to say, as police officers, I don't want us to exalt ourselves over the community, right? I know in New York, we work very hard to restore the public's trust. Mm-hmm. And I just want to acknowledge the police officers, the morale around the country is low. And I understand the frustration, the anger. We have been going through a lot. I mean, we're dealing with multiple things. COVID-19, budgetary crisis across the country, George Floyd, Mr. Brown in Atlanta. So many things are happening back to back. And I like a lot of the officers are saying, we are the ones that are called first, right? So right now, police officers are feeling unappreciated. But I admonish you, my brothers and sisters in blue, to weather the storm, because we are the community, right? And right now, the community is not happy. And try to understand the history, in particularly about Black people and the relationship with the police. Mm-hmm. Do not just try to focus on what happened in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. This is a long-standing history, years, decades of abuse, right? So do not relegate what's going on to one specific thing. Which Black people in America are trying to have racism abolished, right? We're not asking for anything special. We just want the racism to stop, right? To me, it's just simple. Because we wouldn't be where we are today if the things that have been happening, meaning the police brutality, right? And the racism, not just in the police force, but across the country. When you put in an application for a house, when you put in an application at a job, So Black people are dealing with several things, and it's just so happened that it's being intertwined with the police. So I ask that police officers across the world would just have some empathy with the community that they service.
Come on, finish us off, y'all. Couple more.
Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity for having a great panel of women from the North Police Department, past and present. Definitely, we need more recruitment for the city, training, community involvement. Definitely need promotion. And I'm on the list. Definitely would like to see an upward movement in the department, but for everyone. We all need to feel as though we're needed in this job.
Absolutely.
I just wanted to say that law enforcement is one of the most stressful professions that you can ever have. As a retiree, I look back now and I still remember the jobs I went to, the people who were lost, citizens and police officers. And I pray all the time, and I pray even harder now for all the guys and girls who are out on the street and working, and also for the citizens, because now I'm a citizen. But through prayer and my caring heart and my family and friendships is what has sustained me for the last 30 years. So I would say to everyone that's listening to, one, respect the police, and police, respect the citizens, and let's all get it together so we can work together as one.
Well said.
Agreed.
I just want to leave by saying that I'm proud of the city for having the peaceful,
March. Yeah.
marches and everything. So, and I'm proud of them for standing against the people from the other cities that tried to come in and try to make it more negative. And we stay positive, and that shows you that the city of Newark is filled with positive people.
Absolutely.
And also for those guys, the citizens, to be a little more patient with the officers. And when I say that, I mean, don't be mad at every cop, because every cop's not a bad cop.
Right.
Do it right so that the cop's not the one who's right because you came off wrong in the beginning. So if you do it right, you come to us, we'll investigate. Don't just be mad at every cop as soon as you see him, and then you're mad when he's yelling at you. You know what I'm saying? So you do it right and let him be the wrong guy, and then we'll
Right.
take it.
All right, ladies.
First of all, happy Father's Day, Mayor. Happy Father's Day to all, everyone out there. And I also want to say to the community that I work in, the First Precinct, I want to thank everybody that came out and helped us during the protest in front of the precinct. And we are your family. If you need me, you got my number. I just want to make sure everybody, we understand what's going on, and we're there for you.
I just like to give a quick shout out to Police Director Ambrose and to Chief Henry for outstanding leadership, especially during the time of COVID, as well as the protests. And I see already that the director has already begun to change policies. He's listening to the community. We have a change in our transparency policy, use of force, major discipline policy, the DWI arrest procedures, the stop reports. All of those things have already begun to turning us in the right direction so that we can effectively service the community. I love it.
Very good. Very
Yeah, I
good.
just want to say thank you, Director Ambrose, for choosing me for this, because he's the one who told me about this. So happy Father's Day to you, and Chief Henry, thank you for everything.
Yep, I want to thank all of you ladies. You did an awesome job. That's an understatement. And the important thing, you were honest, right? And we don't have to agree, but honesty is what we need. We need an honest and open conversation about what people feel and what people think, because it helps us move in the right direction.
Absolutely.
Sometimes we gauge things differently. We believe everybody thinks the same thing, and everybody doesn't think the same thing. Everybody believe all police officers think the same way. And as you can see, that's not facts, right? That you ladies are your own persons, own human beings, and I love the fact. And it makes me proud of the Newark Police Department that we have incredible women of color like you on the police department. It actually makes me feel more comfortable. Some of you ladies are in leadership, which is great, because they're the people. I'm comfortable with the people under you, and you're not going to allow them to do anything that will embarrass us all over the country. And if they do, as Lieutenant Morris said, we can handle it very swiftly and correctly. Because there are officers in Newark who do things that they should not do. and they should be corrected. And as long as, and I don't think people believe that officers not going to do anything wrong. They just want them to have the same justice that everybody else has to get when they do something wrong. That's it. And I think we have an apparatus in place to make sure that that happens. And ultimately that people understand that you are part of our community as well. So I used, my whole life, I marched against police brutality as a little boy, up into a grown person. So being the mayor of a city in charge of a police department in these times are trying times. They make you self-reflect and think about the things you really believe and think. And I just want to say I'm proud of you guys, proud of you ladies for doing the work that you do every single day. And hopefully some of you can infect some of them guys out there. But God bless y'all. Happy Father's Day to the fathers in your lives too. God bless you.
All right.
That's you. Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
See you, ladies.
Bye.
Bye-bye. How do I get out this thing?